Good morning and happy Tuesday. For my reflection this week, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my vocation story and how it came to be that I'm in seminary studying and considering becoming a priest. So first off, I do want to preface this that I never planned to become a priest, never wanted to become a priest, and this is most definitely a surprise that got dropped in my lap. But upon looking back on my life, I can definitely see the seeds that were planted over time. So, to start it off, I grew up Catholic, and my family's been attending St. Juan Diego since shortly after its beginning in 2002. And my own faith really started to take off in high school with a phenomenal high school youth group experience. It was the most welcoming and joyful community that I'd seen in my then 14 years of life. And after the first winter retreat, I was completely hooked. So I continued going to that throughout high school, and it was more of a community building experience than really a deepening of faith. But there were certainly some glimmers that shone through, especially in my senior year of high school, that got me more excited about God as well, rather than just the friendships that I'd made. So fast forward to college, starting at UC Davis, and in my freshman year, starting right off the bat, I knew I wanted a community similar to what I'd had out of high school, so I joined the Newman Center. And keep in mind that priesthood was not a thought at that moment. I was happy with my major of civil and environmental engineering, and this was more because I wanted a community than necessarily because I wanted faith. But I went there and I absolutely loved it, and it had everything good about my high school youth group and more. And it especially did have a deeper focus on faith and a richer intensity there, which I grew into, and it inspired me to start taking my faith into my own hands much more. And so over the first couple of years of college, I really started doing some personal research and learning about Catholicism and starting to understand why it is that we do what we do as Catholics. Now, fast forward a bit further to my senior year of college, and that's where things started to change in terms of my plans for the future and my schooling life. Before then, I had been perfectly content with engineering, but at this time I was going through a sort of growing discontent with what was being given in classes and expectations for the future. I was finding engineering wasn't filling me in the same way as it was before. And so I began having a time of difficulty, a time of strife, and I knew that going into engineering would be able to be a career that would help people and serve people, but not in the same way that I'd wanted or intended. And this sounds kind of sterile when I say it like that, but it really was what I'd wanted for myself and planned for myself since going into high school even. So needing to rethink my life's purpose for as long as I'd had a life's purpose, really, was causing me a good deal of pain. So one night in early spring, I was laying in bed with all these thoughts running through my head, and really a time of great mental anguish. And suddenly the thought popped into my head that I'd never actually genuinely considered priesthood as an option. And I think part of the reason why this thought came was because the Newman Center was actually having a discernment retreat that weekend, one that I wasn't on at that time. And so I like to say that that discernment retreat that I didn't go on did more for my vocation than it did for anyone who actually went on it. But that's beside the point. Anyway, when that thought came, it came with a great deal of calm. And I found myself thinking about it and couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't really get it out of my head. And so, so I sought guidance and direction at the Newman Center with the friendships I'd formed there, as well as a lot of prayerful discernment at that time. So I continued through that year, graduating from UC Davis, and then started a master's program in renewable energy engineering because that had been the plan before the priesthood thought had come. And throughout that time, throughout that year that I stayed in that program, I spent a while discerning and thinking and praying and really asking God if He wanted me to completely change the direction of my life from what I'd planned. And in that time, I'd found that, yes, I needed to change. Engineering was not my path. So I applied to seminary and have absolutely loved what I've experienced there thus far. It really brought me a peace of mind and a joy that was very welcome after the difficulty it took to get there, and as well as a continued passion for community building as well as youth and young adult ministry that was really instilled in me during those high school and college experiences. So here I am, and seminary is of course a place of continued prayer and discernment, so this story is far from over, but I appreciate all the prayers and support I've gotten up to this time, and so I appreciate your continued prayer and support. Pray for our seminarians. We definitely need it.